Hi guys. Hi everybody. I can see some of
Morning.
you online.
Morning.
Oh good, I can hear you. This is great. And then I've got a couple people in here. So Justin, I can see your name. What's your name? Christina. Michelle. Am I saying that right? Okay, I can see it. The MY. MY. I like it. Okay. Well, I'm Carrie Wersch. I'm the lead buyer's agent for Grady Real Estate. I have been in the business for, I feel like a dinosaur anymore. But I started as an EA over at a commercial firm back in 2005. Got my license in 2007, got my GRI in 2009, got my brokers in 2010. I was always at a small little brokerage. I think I sold my first house in 2009, moved over to Keller Williams in 2012, and my business tripled. So I was the top individual agent here at the Market Center in 2013, 15, 16. And then I started my own team, had my own team in 2017, and in 2018, Adam and I merged our teams. At that time, I had a buyer's agent, and my husband had gone into the business as well. So he actually had gotten his license in 2016. And so he was kind of doing listings on my team. And then I had Kelsey, who's my rock star. Her and I worked together for 6 years now. She came on as my first executive assistant. And then I brought on Courtney, who then moved into a transaction coordinator position. So I had a team of 4 whenever Adam and I joined teams in 2018. Him as a team, in 2018 or 2017, he did 107 buy-side transactions. I'll just talk buyers only. And last year, me bringing on and having a team within a team, we did 263. So I did 263 last year. So I know all things buyers. So if anybody has questions about buyers in any capacity, I think that I love buyers. I love working with buyers. I love finding buyers. I love finding them motivated. And that certainly is a challenge right now in this market. So with Ignite, one of the things I absolutely love, and I always teach Ignite, is if anybody ever says, where does the business come from and how did your business, skyrocket? It was being foundational and having classes like this. I think that's basically what really transitioned me from, whenever before I moved over to Keller Williams, I think I'd done 12 transactions that year. And then I tripled my business, and it was things like this that just get you into the foundational pieces that I wish that whenever I first had gotten into business and started selling real estate, and I would have started here and started with this training and be able to be around like minds that are just killing it. So I hope you guys have gotten a lot out of Ignite. Any ahas from you guys? I would love to know what you guys have learned so far. And what's working for you, if anybody wants to chime in through Ignite. Interactive, love interactive. You guys have anything?
So for me, I'm just kind of trying to get back to basics. I've developed a lot of bad habits over the last 20 years. And so I think it's just more about, for me, just reining in and getting back to doing what I know I need to be doing on a daily basis, consistently.
I love that so much. And one of the things that I always hear people is the shiny objects, right? And if you can just stay in habit and be foundational, I have, masterminds or people reaching out to me like what we do every single day. It's not secret sauce. It's not super sexy. I just have built system after system after system, as well as just gotten very, very intentional about the one thing, and it's finding your lever that brings you the most business, right? It doesn't have to be 10 things. You need to find one thing that you're really, really good at. Maybe it's circle prospecting. Maybe it's open houses. Maybe it's online leads. Maybe it's door knocking. Whatever the one thing is that you're good at, that's the only thing that you need to identify. Adam built his whole business on open houses. We'll go through all of this, but it's the one thing that if he is going to take a couple of hours out of his Sunday to be away from his family, he's going to be super intentional about it. You need to have the right location and do all the things that, never leave the open house without another meeting scheduled. So it's just being really, really intentional about those things. And I think that, Brian, I love that you bring that up, because as you have been in real estate for years, you do get bad habits, and you've got to realize what those habits are and just get yourself back to the foundations. And I think that especially in the market that we've had for the past couple of years, it's really, really easy to kind of veer off and, kind of get distracted, I guess I would like to say. So just to get people and regroup them down. I know that we're talking about that all the time with our team, just stay foundational, stay in habit. So are you guys liking Ignite? Is it going good?
Yeah.
Good. So whenever I teach, I'm usually very just relaxed. I love to have all kinds of communication. To me, yes, I can sit here and read all this, but I mean, you guys have eyes and can read yourself. So I would like you guys to kind of talk to me about challenges and things that you're maybe having or have had, so that we can keep this super interactive. And I'm going to use this as a format, but if you have other things that we need to discuss or move on to, we certainly can. So win the buyer. So how many of you guys have been in the business? This is your first year in business? Yes, yes, yes. Online?
Yes.
Yes.
First year, first week.
First year, first week. I love it. Yep, that's good. I like it too. Third week? Okay, perfect. That's like the best. Okay. So have any of you done a transaction? No? Working on it? Do you guys have buyers?
Working on it.
Working on it.
Mhm.
Okay, tell me, how are you working on it?
I'm sending out like MLS maps and narrowing down houses to like
Where are they coming from?
open houses.
Open houses. Okay. Where are you finding your open houses?
I've done one, and it was a friend of mine that had it, and
Okay.
it was like a total remodel right in the middle of town by good schools. Priced pretty high, so I figured like there would be a house that they were coming from to sell as well.
Okay. Can you guys hear that online? Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
I get that one though.
You're good. What about you guys? Anybody else? How are you finding your buyers? Nobody has buyers. Fear. Okay, perfect. So with this market, I will say that open houses have probably been one of the biggest challenges, just because we haven't been able to do open houses. Open houses have been shut down, and or if a house goes on the market, it's sold before the open house, right? So the open houses have definitely been a challenge, and there are ways to be more strategic about that. So if you have a listing that's going on the market, put it on the market on Saturday, put it on the market on Sunday, do the open house, make a decision after the open house. Be strategic on when you put it on the market. And then, with open houses, and we can get into this a little bit more, I'll teach you different ways that you can make really easy contacts through that open house, as far as making it very, very intentional. So to get started with all of this, what successful agents do every day: lead generate for buyers and sellers, make seller listing presentations, make buyer presentations, and preview real estate. And then this also talks about running the business, which is market seller listings, show buyer houses, negotiate contracts, transaction management, vendor management, set goals, compliance, risk management, attend training, and get coaching and manage money. So with those activities, what are the money producing business opportunities there, right? It's the lead generation side of it. So as you are building your business, those things that run the business are oftentimes things that when you eventually have enough business going, that you can leverage off, right? So the way that we need to always be doing business is lead generate, negotiate contracts, go on appointments, script and role play, and close the deal, right? So those are the 5 main things that we need to be focused on every single day. So when we're lead generating for buyers, I think that when you hear lead generate, what does that feel like to you? What do you think lead gen is? Okay. How are you finding potential clients?
When you say lead gen, are you thinking like sphere of influence, or a lot of times when I hear that word, I think of like paid for leads. So
Sure, it's any of those things. So lead generation, I feel like has like a negative thought to it because it feels like cold calling, right? Most people are like, I have to cold call. And what I love to say is that lead gen is one of those things that it's any type of connection that you're making with somebody else, right? Your sole purpose as an agent is to let people know what you do, right? It doesn't matter at what capacity. I always used to have this like horrible thought in my mind that would be like, oh, I've got a lead gen, because it's just like, it feels like you've got to call expireds. You've got to, call people and, hey, this is Carrie, and this feels really weird. And I'm asking you if you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, right? And what you need to really focus on is just making sure that everybody knows what you do. I can't go anywhere without somebody asking me what's going on in the real estate market, because everybody knows what I do. All of my friends know what I do. My whole yoga place knows what I do. I mean, anywhere that I go, people just know what I do because I've been doing it for a long time. Mark is really, really great. Mark Stewart, he wears his name badge all the time. So people will, in the grocery store, tell me about the real estate market. That is your one thing. If I can just dial that in, is just make sure people know what you do. And then it makes the conversation fun. And the number one thing is anytime somebody says to you, how's the market? Your answer should always be, it's fascinating. Why do you ask? It's incredible. Why do you ask? Right? Because people are asking that question because of something, right? And nobody wants to sit there and be like, well, actually, inventory is down since 2019 by 1,300 homes, and we sold 1,880 homes yesterday, and nobody cares, right? Wrong answer. You can know your numbers until you're blue in the face, but all you have to do is just be intentional. So, how's the market? Oh my gosh, it's so great. Why do you ask? Well, my uh, my kids just moved out. They're going to college, and I'm just kind of thinking that, maybe we just need a little bit less space, right? So I now know how to direct that conversation. Well, I've just been thinking about it, and it'd be really, really great to have some investment property, right? So now I could totally go down that avenue of investment property and what that looks like.
Carrie, what are your thoughts? Sorry for interrupting. If you were to say that there's not very many homes available and sort of spin it as, but anybody who wants to sell can get a buttload for their house, like sort of taking a negative to a positive.
I think I would have let them guide that conversation before taking it in that direction. So, I think that would be, well, I really want to sell my house because I know that I could sell it for the most amount of money. But then my biggest problem is gosh, where am I going to go? Right.
Yep.
Right. So you have to really find out what is motivating them to engage in that conversation, because that can be, them buying a property for their college student that's going to MSU. That could be them downsizing. That could be them upsizing. That could be, oh my gosh, we just got married and we're going to buy our first house. So let them navigate the conversation and allow you to kind of, come around to them and meet them where they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We can be a wealth of knowledge of all the things, interest rates, statistics, inventory, solds last year. And it doesn't mean anything to them, because if you ever talk to somebody that they just like, da 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 da, and they're talking and it just all of a sudden it's like wah 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 wah, and you're not even listening anymore, it's because you didn't listen to them and you didn't engage in them, and so therefore they've already like lost you. So the question is, how's the market? And the answer is always, it's fantastic. Why do you ask? Right? Even at an open house, man, this market's really, really tough. Wow, really? You think so? Why do you think that's so, what's so tough about it? Oh, well, I live out in Billings and I'm on acreage, and, the schools are so great. And, let them tell you, the areas, right? I live in Republic. Well, Republic is booming right now. Republic is expected to increase in population in 5 years. Like, it's going crazy, right? We're going to see building going crazy out there right now. So let them tell you where to lead that conversation. Okay. But the number one thing is make sure everybody knows what you do. I used to, many, many, many moons ago, like teach yoga classes. And I would, I was an instructor, so everybody had to listen to me. So I would just start talking about my day. I put people in weird poses and then like make them sit in chair for a really long time. And then I would start talking about like buyers and sellers and stuff like that. And as goofy as it is, like, that's lead generation. I just lead gen to 20 people, right? Because you know what happened? Every single one of those people has bought and sold houses from me, right? I go to my yoga studio that I'm at now, and I'm like, look around the room. I'm like, they're my client, they're my client, they're my client, they're my future client. I'm working on a house with them right now. I sold their house, right? So, you know, do those things. I don't ever be obnoxious about it, right? That's just not how I am. But everybody knows what I'm doing. Everybody knows, you know, that we're into the real estate market, and then be that professional, know your numbers. Any thoughts around that? And make it fun. Okay, so they always use NAR statistics, which are old, which kind of annoys me because I'm like, I don't care about 2019. But this says 89% of agents, or 89% of buyers purchased homes through a real estate agent. I would say in 2020, that would be way higher because of COVID reasons, and because of multiple offers. And I'm a firm believer that in the past 2 years, I don't care who you are. If I would tell people, if you don't have an agent, you're not buying the house, right? You're not getting in the house, because the only people getting in the house are people that are scheduled, and the only people that are scheduled are agents. And they're in 30-minute increments, and you got to be in and out within 25. And you got to have an agent representing you. And if you don't have an agent, what is the perception, Brian, I'm probably gonna pick on you, of why would somebody not have an agent? What are they trying to do?
Well, usually the argument I get is they think they can get a better deal if they're dealing directly with the listing agent. They don't realize that they're just dealing with somebody who plays for the other team.
100%. I am so big on fiduciary, you guys. I have people all the time that reach out to me. I don't want to say all the time because it's one-offs, right? Most people use an agent, but I've had a couple people that are like, well, we just thought we were getting a better deal, or the agent told me that if I wrote the contract with them, that he would knock off, a percentage or something, and I would get a better deal. Would you look at this contract? And they've written in no inspections, they've written in no appraisals, it's not contingent upon financing, it's $5,000 earnest money, and they're screwed. They're
Mhm.
screwed, right? I have a buyer who signed a buyer's agency agreement with me. He, you just can't predict things, you guys. He went to an auction, and I knew about the auction, and I was like, let me still represent you with this auction. He typed in his stuff, logged in, click, 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 won the house. Okay. So he's now under contract without representation with this auctioneer, and the seller died. $11,000 in earnest money. And he's calling me, telling me to fix it. And I mean, I'm reading this contract and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, right? So you've got to have representation. And I feel that so to my core with my buyers that I am representing you and the importance of that, right? And in this market, especially, you need to really push what the importance of having an agent is, because just like what Brian was mentioning is that a lot of times people think that they can go to the seller and they're going to get a deal. And at the end of the day, the agent is just representing the seller. They have no representation and they're probably still getting the full 6%. Like, you don't know how much the seller is getting paid or the listing agent's getting paid. In your perception, you maybe think it is, right? But in this market, we're seeing multiple offers, appraisal gaps, no inspections. So must have representation. So that's why I think this number is probably a lot higher. This says 89%. I'm sure it's way, way higher. Obviously, you know, referrals from family and friends. This says 75% of buyers interviewed one real estate agent during the home. Have you guys ever, of this? I've got two analogies. Okay, so I'm gonna do this right here so you guys can see. So the point, like another thing we're gonna get into is like the database and why that's super, super important. But when we look at buyers, right? So here's a buyer, okay? Basically, the number one day that a buyer doesn't transact is the day that they transact, right? So here is transaction day, right? We bought a house, buyer, that's amazing. So from there on, every single day, every single year, whether this is, you know, say this is 2010, this is 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, and they bought a house, right? So then that goes all the way back down, house, and it starts over. 2000, what was that?
Gary, we can't hear you very well.
Thank you. So I was saying is that with buyers, the day that you're most likely not to buy a house is the day you buy your house. And every day after that is another year that you are going to transact. And then that goes back down to the day that you purchase. So they say this is 2016. Okay. So in 2016, you buy a house. Well, then that just starts over again until you buy a house, right? So when you are looking for people is when they're going to buy a house. What this used to be is every 7 to 10 years. What we are seeing now is it's every 3 to 5 because the market has changed so much, people can pull so much equity out. So we are always looking to find the motivated, which is why it's super important to always keep everybody in your database, in your pipeline, which we'll get into. But the importance is that everybody is going to one day purchase a house and you have to be the person here, right? And so the analogy that I love to give people is when you walk into a store, okay? You walk into a store and somebody walks up to you and they say, hey, thank you so much for coming in today. What are you looking for? Oh, nothing, I'm just looking, right? So you dismiss them, you walk around, you pick up one thing, you pick up another thing, you pick up another thing, and next thing you know, your hands are full, right? And then what are you doing? You're looking for someone to let you into the fitting room, right? And those people that are on commission, who gets it? Whoever's standing right there, right? You, most cases, don't walk back and say, hey, whenever I walked into the door, you asked me what I was looking for, and I know you work on commission. Can you get me a fitting room? Does that happen? No. So this is so important because you have to be that person always there at the fitting room, right? You've got to be able to realize when people are going to make those life events. That's why it's so important that you're constantly asking people, you know, that's so fascinating. Why do you ask? Because you're looking for life events that is going to trigger you to know that they're going to purchase house. And if you have people in your database and you're following them, then you can know that they have a kid in high school and they're going to be empty nesters, right? There's a lot of those things that you can constantly be triggering. So any questions around that? I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but this is so important as far as like transactions and knowing that this is happening faster and faster and faster. I have sold houses in 2020 and they're already selling again. 2 years, right? People are
Gary,
just
I
moving
wanted
on.
to slide back just for a second about the like the buyer coming in just with a just by themselves essentially.
Okay.
If you were the seller's agent and let's say you had two identical offers and you had somebody like that that had a list from a mortgage lender as opposed to somebody who had an aggressive agent, would you prefer to go against somebody like that that didn't have representation, or does it just turn you off and you would recommend for your buyer or for your seller to take the other deal?
So your question is about somebody who has representation versus not representation and multiple offers?
Yeah, it would just seem like that somebody like that you could take advantage of based on contracts, as opposed to somebody who would be a tough negotiating buyer's agent.
I think it just depends. It depends on the terms, it depends on the deal, it depends on the situation, it depends on the offer itself.
Okay.
So, I mean, we always have buyer and seller, even whenever somebody's comes through our team on our listing, it's still, they have buyer representation and they've got seller representation. So, and most of those people, if they're saying that they won't use an agent, we tell them they have to go hire an attorney. So, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so much legal back
Right.
on it, you know, because they're trying to get a deal. And
Sure.
and even if they look like they're not trying to get a deal, it's one of those things where they try to sweep the rug out from underneath you when you do inspections and they're like, I want $10,000 off a price, right? But when you have an agent that knows the business, knows the contract, it's oftentimes we'll go with the agent because we know what their end game is. Does that make sense?
To actually buy the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So moving on, I'm going to go to cultivating leads, and I'm realizing I'm not doing this PowerPoint, but I don't even know how to move this thing.
No one does.
Oh, cool. Oh, look, I figured it out. Just kidding. I have no idea. All right, here we go. So this is the 89% of buyers. Okay, so cultivating the leads, if you guys can see this. So this starts getting into, you know, how you found a lead and what you need to do with them. We track everything. Our stuff is on steroids because we track everything. But you know, when you're, I don't want to get too big here, so I'm going to try to stay small. But when you start paying attention to how many appointments you go on and how many actives you have, and then how many you have under contract, tracking your numbers is super, super, super important. And making sure that you have something visually that you can look to as far as who your buyers are. One of my buyer's agents, he keeps it on his phone. He has a list on his phone. It works for him. I have Excel spreadsheets out the wazoo. But he keeps his people where he's got his A buyers, B buyers, and C buyers. And so he knows exactly who everybody is at all times and which ones are his hot buyers. So we'll get into categorizing those in just a second. But whenever you get a lead, so an open house person comes in and you make contact with them, right? The next thing you need to do, and what I always push for, is you need to have them come to the office and meet with you and do a full sit down buyer strategy session. I always tell everybody, I'm going to ask you 100 questions so I can show you 4 houses versus showing you 100 houses because I only asked you 4 questions because I don't have time for it and neither do you, right? Once people start looking at 7, 8, 9 houses, they get buyer fatigue and they lose confidence in you as an agent, right? You're running them all around. We've got COVID craziness that's been going on where people don't want to go in people's houses. People don't want you in their houses. So we just have to kind of tiptoe. And it actually, honestly, the COVID thing has made things pretty easy to kind of tighten up our systems. You know, I'm not showing you a house unless you have a pre-approval or I've got proof of funds. I'm not doing it. The seller will not let you in the house. Blame it on COVID. I mean, we're 2 years in and we're still blaming things on COVID, and it works, right? But I really do have some of those. I mean, I've got a guy that we're going to go look at tomorrow. I've had the appointment for a week. Everyone has to wear masks. We're all going to have to wear booties, but we're meeting him where he is, right? We got to meet people where they are, but use some of those things to your advantage, right? Make sure that you've got a ready, willing, and able buyer before you take them in the house. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, right? You guys are been talking about smart plans, qualifying the buyer leads.
Hey, Carrie, can I chime in real quick?
Sure.
I joined the meeting late. Sorry, I've got a sick 3-month-old, but my name's Johnny Rowe. I've been in real estate for about 5 years now. I've spent my entire time in real estate flipping houses and helping anybody in my sphere that specifically reached out to me. My intention for this year is to go full on into being a buyer's agent. And I'm curious in your buyer's presentation, in your consultation, when you are in your buyer's exclusive agency contract. Like I said, I've only dealt with people that I really know. So when you're dealing with people that you don't have a great relationship with, how do you present your flat fee? Do you charge the flat fee? And if you do, how do you word that when you're getting people to sign?
That's a great question. So in all of our strategy sessions, I have a ton of paperwork that I give to everybody because I want to make sure that they have as much information as possible. And it's stuff that I've built through the years. But whenever the buyer's employment agreement comes out, I say, so I've gone through everything. And I say, you know, I'm going to go over some things. Do you have any questions, or is there anything else that's really, really important that we didn't go over that's important for you for your purchase on your home? And they say no. And I say, okay, so now that I've gone over everything about you and what you're wanting, I'm going to go over some things about our team. So I flip everything around, right? So the beginning of the strategy session is all about them, their kids, their family, where do they work, you know, what's important to them, their wants, their needs, their hard limits, all about them. Then it switches to our team, how we're run, our team aspect. And then the very last document, I say, so we've gone over everything. I know that I have your pre-approval letter and I know that you're ready to go. I'm ready to set up your buyer instant notification system, which is the back end of our MLS. And I have my loyalty agreement today that basically says, I'm going to be loyal to you and you're going to be loyal to me. Are you ready to sign this today? And they always say yes. So I say, okay, perfect. I'm going to go through this. Okay. So I've written your name here and I'm going to do this for 6 months. Obviously, I know that we've got to find you something quicker because your lease is up in May. So we're definitely going to do that. And then you're not currently working with another agent. This is our transaction fee. So we have a transaction fee. It's right here. It's the only thing that you were going to owe us because the seller pays our commissions, which I'm going to go over in section 5. But we've got this flat transaction fee. It'll be a part of your closing costs whenever it closes. Do you have any questions? No, perfect. Okay, so this says additional compensation. We actually do not charge you additional compensation. If you look over in section 5, I've written down here that the seller pays our commissions. Any questions? No, perfect. Okay, so this is dual agency. Dual agency means that a buyer can represent, or an agent can represent the buyer and the seller in the transaction. However, our team does not do that. We actually believe in having fiduciary on the sell side and on the list side. So if I bring a property to you that Grady Real Estate has listed, I will work on behalf of you as your buyer and Adam will work on behalf of the seller. We do not commingle any information, and I will negotiate for you like I would if it was any other broker. But Keller Williams, we have 400 agents, over 400 agents, and our firm does allow dual agency. Any questions? No, perfect. This is transaction broker. So I'm not going to be your transaction broker. I'm actually going to be looking out for your fiduciaries and all of your best interests throughout the entire transaction. And I flipped it around and I sign it as I'm talking. And I say, the other thing that's great about this document is that by you signing this today, I am not an inspector. We are not inspectors. However, we're in houses all the time. And while we want you to visually move into the property, I'm going to point out things that I think that might be flagged since you're an FHA buyer, because when FHA comes in and they do their appraisal, they're going to be looking for health and safety issues. So I may point out a couple of things, or Bo might point out a couple of things. And by signing this, it allows me to do that for you. Do you have any questions? Slide it across and they sign it.
So it sounds like you've already built the rapport and the relationship and the trust before you even go over these documents and go looking at houses, which, I mean, that's obvious. That makes sense. And so, like, when I was trying to structure mine, I was looking through, like, how am I going to explain all of this stuff in detail? But I guess it just sounds like you're very direct. And I think that by being direct, you come across confident, which you are. And that just means they're just like, okay, yeah, I'll sign. I'm not going to read through all of this. I'm going to sign whatever you've got in front of me.
So it's probably one of the number one things that I have people come and say that they struggle with, just because I call it a loyalty agreement. I don't call it a contract. This is another trick. It's 6 pages. I print it front and back, so it's not as intimidating. When you set that in front of them, whoa, hey, I didn't know we were going to do this today. Oh, okay, well, no problem. Let me just go over it with you, right? When you are purchasing a car, do you sit there for 6 hours and read all the documents? No, you have a professional there to point out the bullet points and initial here, sign here, move on, right? Obviously, I mean, I don't have the employment agreement in front of me. I just know it like the back of my hand. It's a script, right? I mean, I know every single line of the contract. I could tell you what line 174 is. I mean, that's my job, is to be your fiduciary. And I've had situations with closings where somebody is upset about title work and they call me and they're like, tell me in what section, da, 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 da. And I can say, well, it's section 5D. Pull down here, line 127. Like, I know where everything is. You need to know that contract. But if you can break it down, and I've had to script this with my buyer's agent several times, because what people want to know is, how long is the agreement? What's the $295 for? Obviously on VAs, you can't charge a transaction fee. So that always feels really good when you're like, oh, you're a VA, we can't charge you that transaction fee. I'm going to scratch that out right there, right? And then that additional compensation, we always used to have that there, say 3%. And we actually switched that so that in section 5, I write in that the seller pays our commissions, because this is true, you guys. If you have clients from out of state and they read that, they will fire you. They will fire you quick. I was writing an $850,000 transaction. I sent that employment agreed to it. The 3% was there because it's always there. That's where it went. And she said, I will not work with you because you're double dipping on me. And I'm like, no. Like, the seller pays our commissions. You do not owe me anything except for this $295 or whatever the transaction fee was. And yeah, she wouldn't do it. So, yep. But just know those key points and make sure that you can just kind of pop through those. So script around that. Find somebody that you can do that with, because when you feel confident with that document, the other thing is, if somebody says, well, I don't know that I want to sign this. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. You're hiring me to work on behalf of you. I'm going to be your fiduciary. If you feel like at any time I'm not doing my job, then I shouldn't be working for you. You can call, text, or email me and I'll rip this up. So there's really nothing in here. I'm not going to hold you to anything. I'm not that type of person. I have a great reputation, and so does our team. And if for some reason you're not happy with myself or my team, then I'm going to let you go, right? You've got to make them feel comfortable. You've got to meet them where they are. It's not a scary document, right?
Carrie, where is, excuse me, Where is that 3% thing at? You said it's removed or it's still in there?
It depends on your documents. It auto-filled. It used to be in the dot loop section of the buyer's agency agreement. It was auto-filled at 3, and we actually changed it to 0 and switched it down to write in that the seller pays our fees.
Okay.
Yep. I don't have it in front of me, but I could tell you it's section, I think 3. It says additional compensation. Great question. Did I do okay with that, Johnny?
No, perfect. Yeah, and I'm looking at the document here. If you go in, I don't know who asked the question in the room, but if it's on line 31, if you go into command, you can look at the previews of the documents if you have that pulled up. But line 31 is where it says. I have one more question, and then I'll be quiet. So you said you represent the buyer for 6 months. So it sounds like you kind of decide that going in, like you don't leave the terms of the agreement up to the buyer. Am I understanding that?
Never. Nope. I make decisions for people all day long. I always say that's why I got married, so I don't have to make decisions at home, because I make decisions for people all day long. 6 months is just easy. You know, I mean, if they're looking for land, I may do a year. But yeah, 6 months, it's just easy.
Thanks, Carrie.
Carrie, I wanted to just clarify. I pulled up the exclusive buyer's agency agreement. So in section 2 is where it says additional compensation, which, you know, ordinarily would say 3%. But so you're saying you just leave that section completely blank, and then at the bottom under other provisions, you just write that the seller pays the commissions. Is that how you do it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I put that as 0.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that caught me off guard when obviously I'm new, but as I started reading it, it's just like, wow, I mean, if I was a buyer signing that, I'd be like, whoa, I have to pay them 3%. I thought that, so thanks for clarifying.
It's not worded great. And I was getting a lot of pushback, and for me, I build systems around holes. So whenever I see a problem or we have an issue, then I'm like, we need to build a system around that. And if it's a one-off, then it's a one-off. But whenever it was asking over and over and over again, and especially because we have such a huge influx of people moving into our area, and that's the document that we're sending to them, it became a major question, right? So we just changed it. Totally changed it.
Thank
Gary,
you.
I was sort of running the numbers and kind of looking at, like, so if you could come up with if you were somebody who came up sort of with a chop shop who would accept 2% instead of 3% on a $200,000 house, it's $2,000, and you can just basically sell that you and your team are going to make up for that based on being awesome, as opposed to somebody who's doing this 5 hours a week.
Well, I mean, as far as if we start getting into percentages, first of all, it's 3%.
No, I meant like if you could, if somebody was able to get somebody else who was like brand new by themselves that would accept 2% instead of 3%, like they're going to lose the difference most likely just because they don't have the resources. I was just thinking the number between 2% and 3% would be $2,000 on a $200,000 house.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the document that we have signed up front. It's for compliance purposes only. I mean, I've had certain people that have said, hey, I found a for sale by owner. I'm going to purchase this, but I still want you to represent me, and I still represent them. So, I mean, those things can just make changes whenever we need to.
And I think too, so for me, more the real world application is when we get back to having foreclosures and REO properties, a lot of them are listed with a 2.5% or even 2% co-op fee. I mean, I've even seen 1 3/4 before. And at that point, you've got to make that decision as an agent, whether you're going to accept that and change that employment agreement to match it, or if you're going to hold your buyer accountable for that other, 0.5% to 1.25%, depending on the scenario.
Yep. Great questions, guys. We'll get more into that. We'll probably already squashed all the buyer's agreement, because that's another section in there. So qualifying buyer leads. So once upon a time, this is what the traditional is. I would say this is back in 2019. When we categorize our buyers, they're A buyers, B buyers, and C buyers. So our A buyers are they're able, willing, and ready, willing, and able to purchase. A B buyer is they're ready, willing, and able, but their timeline is maybe 6 to 8 months, right? And a C buyer is that they're not ready. I have completely changed all of this because to me, a C buyer, I'm not going to be talking to, right? I'm going to have them on some type of drip. I'm going to be nurturing them. I'm going to be reaching out to them on a quarterly basis. I'm not going to be calling them as much. So in this market and where we've been since about 2020, an A buyer is someone who is ready, willing, able, and willing to do whatever it takes. They have additional money. They're going to pay appraisal gaps. They're paying their own closing costs. They are, they're just ready to do whatever it takes. I mean, I wrote one the other day and we got it was $50,000 over asking price, no appraisal, right? It's going to win. No inspection. It's going to win. Limit your inspections. It's going to win, right? So now to me in this market, a B buyer is someone who's ready, willing, and able to purchase, but they may have a government type loan. They may not have closing costs. They don't have the extra money for the appraisal gap. They're still an important buyer. They're just a B rating for me. And then a C buyer for me is someone who's ready and willing, and they're just kind of like, well, if the right house comes on the market, right? So we actually have a spreadsheet. I am a weirdo. I love Excel spreadsheets. I have everybody categorized and they're color coded. They're green if they're ready to go. If they're an A buyer, they're yellow if they're a B buyer, and they're red if they're a C buyer. And then if they're in gray, it means they're being passed to an ISA because we have an ISA department, and the ISA is actually the one that's following up with them. So make sure that whenever you are qualifying your people, that they are an A buyer, a B buyer, a C buyer, because you need to be making sure that you're spending time with the people that are actually going to transact, right? Any thoughts on any of that? So we update them weekly. My team, we meet every Tuesday at 11:15. Our transaction coordinator comes in. I go through all the properties that are currently under contract. Where are we with appraisal? Where are we with inspections? Where are we with underwriting? Do I need to make any phone calls? And we are updating our systems through our CRM. And then it goes to me personally going through our buyer pipeline. And I start with Bo, one of my buyer's agents, and I literally go through. And all we're trying to do is move that buyer up, right? So their lease is actually up in February. Okay, they're now an A buyer, right? We're transitioning. Oh, they just signed a 6 month lease. Perfect, pass it back to the ISA. But we are doing it every Tuesday. You've got to stay on top of where your people are, because there's nothing worse than calling people and being like, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm under contract. I'm sorry, what? We missed the fitting room, right? Where was I whenever I have my pile of clothes and you're not there, right? So the next one is the buyer lead sheet. This is an electronic sheet that you guys can have through Keller Williams. And you guys do it. Meet with people, find out their wants and needs. Ask them 100 questions so you can show them 4 houses. Take this as a starting point and build it out. Make it your own. I call mine my buyer DNA. It is their DNA to exactly what they are looking for, acreage, price. Mine has all of their personal information, how many kids they have, what their occupation is, if they want to be, what's the best way to communicate with you? Do you like phone calls? Do you like texts? When am I showing you properties? I don't know how many people are night shift people, right? Night shift. And I actually built and I give it to every single person. I built a sheet that says, these are our office hours, because when COVID hit, everybody's schedules changed and people were texting me at 2 a.m. Can I see this property at 10? Calling me at 5 a.m. Like, no, put your boundaries on, right? Ours even says, it says closed on Sunday. Obviously we're not closed. Like we do all the real estate on Sunday, but I just tell people like, hey, I've got twins at home. We're a family oriented team. I got to respect some boundaries. I will do whatever it takes to get you the property that you want. However, I have to buffer in some times, and I do not answer my phone at 2 a.m. Right? And if you call me at 7 or 5 a.m., we have a stand-up call at 8 a.m. I'm on a conference call at 8 a.m. I will get to you at 8:30, right? Make decisions for people. I literally tell people, right? You train people how to treat you. And if you answer your phone at 11 o'clock at night, they're going to call you at 11 o'clock at night. If you text them back or send an email at 2 a.m., you are training them how to treat you. I made a lot of mistakes for many, many years because I would break those rules, and you've got to train people. So do this buyer lead sheet. You know, this even has on there price, motivation, location, wants, needs, time, finances, ability. On that list, add hard limits or deal breakers, right? People don't know what they don't know, but they know what they don't want, right? And I always tell people too, like, listen, we are not on an HGTV show. If you walk in the house and it smells bad and that's a hard limit for you, word out, right? If you walk into a house and you can't stand the kitchen, it's not an open floor plan, it's just not my house. I don't own this house. You're not offending me. I need you to be brutally honest. And also make people know that they have that power. Like, I hate this house, let's leave. Perfect. But before you leave, what do you hate about the house? Well, the smell, okay. I don't have smell-o-vision, so that's just something that we're gonna have to figure out, right? But you know, the ceilings are too low, there's not enough lighting, I can't stand the colors, da, 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 da. People are very, very quick to tell you things that they don't like, and you need to remember that, right? Those are super, super important, because you've got to be able to take people back to their pain. The backyard has no hardscape, and that's really important for me because I have small children and a dog, right? So then they send you a house. Hey, can we go look at this? Well, I just looked at the satellite and I also looked at the pictures. Did you see that there's a transformer back there, and like it's really going to limit your ability for a swing set, or you know, or there's a culvert in the back. Make them reiterate those pain points because you can eliminate stuff, right? Save time for everybody. All right, qualifying your buyers, sign the buyer agreement. We went through that big time. Financing, hold on. With open houses, try to always set the next appointment. You know, are you working with an agent? No, I just started. How long have you been looking? Ask those questions. You're constantly qualifying people. You know, who's the lender that you're working with? Always ask, this is like huge for me, on a couple of different things. So back to that buyer's strategy session and asking and qualifying the questions. Never, if you can, remove the word why, right? I would be talking to somebody and they would say, well, I need a 3-car garage. Why? I need a 3-car garage, right? It feels like defense, right? You want people to engage with you, not to feel like you're like, well, why? You know, that's ridiculous, right? Oh, well, I have a boat, or, you know, I've got this big truck, or I've got toys. I've got to have a shed. So what we do instead is we say, what about a shed is important to you? What about a 3-car garage is important to you? What about being in Disney schools is important to you? Because you can find out, oh, well, they have 3 kids without saying, do you have kids? Right? Because you don't want to ask that question. What's our search? You know, kind of the foundational pieces. Is it driven by a school district? Now I've just asked if you have kids, right? So what about is important to you is just a really great question to ask. You know, whenever you do an open house, I never say, are you working with an agent? Well, you say, are you working with an agent? And then I say, oh, great, what's their name? You'll find out real quick if they have an agent. Real quick. Oh, shoot, honey, what is his name? Gosh. Okay, so when was the last time that you met with him? No, right?
They got a bird in the hand rather than having to go wrangle that bush again to go find it.
Right. I mean, they think that they can come in. Or I always love people that are like, you know, oh, what brings you out today on a Sunday? And they're like, oh, I live in the neighborhood. Oh, great. I'm so excited to meet somebody that lives in the neighborhood. Can you tell me something that's just super fantastic about the neighborhood that I can let the next buyer know that you love so much? Re-engage them, right? They think that they can ask a question and that you're just going to go away, and I don't let that happen. How long have you been in your house? Wow, gosh, you've been in there for 5 years. That's a really long time. Do you have any idea what your house is worth right now in today's market? What kind of interest rate are you? Oh, I'm a 5.25. Oh my gosh, did you know that interest rates right now, if you were to go down, that could make a couple $100s on, you could do a cash out refi. I mean, engage them. Don't discount people for what their answers are. Yeah, I'm working with an agent, you know, Mark Stewart. Wow, I love Mark. You are in such good hands. Okay, I'm going to make note of that, and I'm going to call Mark and let him know that you came into my open house. He's going to be so excited to know that you're out looking at houses, right? Make those things and those touches. It's really, really beneficial because people always are trying to discount you, right? They're the person in the store trying to say, I don't know what I'm looking for today, that all of a sudden have 4 things that they're holding in their hands, right? Any questions about any of that, you guys? Cool. I've got questions up here. Do you have a microphone?
Doesn't work.
Okay. Sliding over microphone.
Back to when we were talking about the leads and intake sheet, how it is essentially the DNA for your lead. What additional questions is it that you ask that isn't on a basic template that might be addition? So for instance, we list on there like the source of where the lead came from that isn't included on there. What are some additional items that you look for?
I mean, we always want to know the source just because we always want to be able to find out what lever we need to pull in any type of market. So, I mean, if they're an open house lead, if they're an online lead, if they're an expired, you know, whatever. But mine, I mean, it's pretty similar to what the one is through here. I've just kind of built it out more. So, I have their lender information on there. If they tell me, like, do you have to sell a house in order to buy? Are there any properties on here that you've looked at that you've like looked online, you're like, that's the house, even if it's under contract? And I write it down because I am like a weird Rolodex. Somebody can tell me a house and I can immediately go, they would have bought this house, this house, this house. So I just need to find that. I can look at a house and say, I know exactly what you're looking for now, right? You know, school district is always on there, locations is on there, deal breakers is on there. If they say they have a house to sell, I always say, when did you buy it? I can look it up. I mean, I oftentimes do right in front of them. Wow, you bought that house for $135,000. That's insane. Do you know what your house is worth right now? Do you have any idea? And then I have them tell me, well, I think I've been looking on whatever, and I think it's worth this. So I write that down. And then I say, what do you owe? Right? Because that tells me a lot. If I know that you owe 100,000, that tells me a lot. I had a guy yesterday that we are going to be listing his house next week, and they are purchasing in a very healthy price range. And he said, well, I'm a veteran, so I'm going to do a VA loan. I said, okay, well, that sounds good. And I said, so based on where I'm thinking that you're going to have about $100,000 in equity. Will you be using all of that to go down towards your next house? Or are you going to be paying off some debts or just, you know, bunkering money? He's like, well, I'll probably just put it down. And I said, okay, have you met with a lender? And he said, no. And I said, so I want to tread lightly because I'm not a lender, but what about a VA loan is important to you? And he said, the fact that I don't have any mortgage insurance. And I said, I love that you said that. And I think that if you're putting down $100,000, we really need to make sure that you're looking into a conventional loan, because I think that you could not have your mortgage insurance, and your funding fee on a price of home that high is going to be very, very high. You could actually be at a better interest rate, no PMI, and less money of your closing costs because you don't have that funding fee if you were to possibly just do a conventional. And again, I'm not a lender, but I think that you should need to have that conversation and make sure that you're talking to somebody that's not going to say, you're a VA, that's what we're doing, right? And he just kind of sat there. So that was super, super beneficial to him. But had we not had that conversation of how much do you owe, so that I can calculate how much he's, going to make from that sale. So I always ask that question. Plus, whenever you are on a team, it's very, very beneficial. Even if you're not on a team, if you're going to take the listing appointment, they've already told you what their expectation is, right? Now you just need to meet their expectation or beat it, right? I love that you think your house is worth 230,000. I actually feel like we could probably push it up to 245. However, buyers in this price range right now are looking in $25,000 increments. And I don't think that we would lose a buyer if we pushed you up another 5. So let's just see what we do at 250. And if we don't have 13 showings within the first 3 days, then we need to drop it to this number, right? So it's constantly calibrating those conversations based off of their expectation. So yeah, I always ask that question: how much do you owe? And then yeah, just the fun stuff, right? Those strategy sessions are all about them. And if there's a little one in there, what do you want, right? I want a pink room. Okay, cool, right? So, but it changes everything whenever you're engaging everybody that's in the room. Let me see where we are next. Did I fly through all of this? Maybe. I talk really fast. What questions do you guys have for me? You guys have some time. It's only 11. I'm not going to keep you. I mean, we all have other things that we've got going on. So, but would you be offended if we got done early? No. What I would strongly advise you guys to do is go to the contract class, and don't go to it once, go to it several times. Learn the contract, step in on people. That's what's so great about Keller Williams is you can ask a lot of questions.
Like just walk in their office.
Yeah. People used to do it to me all the time. I actually had like Kelsey and Courtney where they were like the bodyguards. They would be like, nope, she's on the phone. Nope, she's on the phone. Josh Keats was actually at that mastermind yesterday. He said that he walked into my office. This is probably 3 years ago. And he said, hey, I'm in multiple offers. I don't know what to do. Can you please help me? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Give me 15 minutes and I'll give you 15 minutes. So he just came in and we wrote the offer, got him his deal. Have scripts going, like script practice. If you guys are doing that. Yeah. I think that's super important. Are you guys doing that? We script and role play every day.
Yeah, we have Mark Stewart's script practice Monday, Thursday, Friday from 8:30 to 10.
Mark Stewart has script practice every single day.
Monday, Thursday, Friday.
Monday, Thursday, and Friday. Is it down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down here. One thing I will say is that whenever you've been in the business for a long time, it's just objections and it's just scripts and it's just feeling confident in what it is that you are talking about so that you are able to just deliver that without sounding like a robot. Bold is really, really good because it's great with scripts, but they feel sometimes like not organic and natural. And so you just have to make them yours. But I mean, obviously I did that buyer's agency agreement. I mean, it's a script. You just have to know it. What questions do you guys have for me? because I feel like I'm looking through all of this and I've gone through it at all.
This has nothing to do with,
Hold on.
like what you, okay, all right. This is like just a little off subject, but what is your daily routine like? Like what time do you get up in the morning? What time do you say, you know what, I'm done working today. It's family time. Like, can you walk us through like a normal day in the KW world?
You don't want to know that answer. So my day, I mean, gosh, I live by my calendar. I am very much, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. Everyone has access to my calendar. I have non-negotiables in there and it's color coded. I have my, notes and sync and follow up and running my numbers is all in yellow because they are movable appointments. And then I've got my non-negotiable appointments that I have on there that all of my ISAs and team members know that they cannot schedule over that under any circumstances. One of those is, our buy-side team meeting. But I think it depends on the day. We do a stand-up call every morning at 8 a.m. All producing agents are on that call, and we basically, Adam starts it and then I follow, and we go through every agent on our team and we basically say what our schedule is for the day. Oftentimes they're called carry days because I literally have an appointment every hour on the hour. So, it's this morning I had 3 fires happening with 3 contracts that I'm trying to fix. So I got into the office, I worked on those. I came down here, I'm doing this, today I've got a buyer consultation at 12. I put lunch on my calendar. I've got to set up searches, do my sync notes, and put stuff on my pipeline. So that's going to be about 1:30. I've got a 2 o'clock consultation, a 3 o'clock meeting with our team. And then I try to buffer in a little bit of time for, all the craziness that happens in between whenever we're negotiating deals. And I've actually written 2 contracts this morning. And then the afternoons, if I can go to yoga, that's my one thing. That's my de-stressor. And so if I can go to that, then I do. My girls are in gymnastics until 7. So my husband or myself pick them up. And I try to be as present as I can with them because I have an hour with them. And then just depending upon if I'm negotiating deals or, if I need to get back on the computer or help with something, then I will do it. But yeah, I mean, I have a really high impact schedule and it doesn't bother me. I mean, I love what we do. I'm so passionate about what we do that it doesn't feel like work for me. And I've had a lot of people ask questions to me. Like I had some coaches on a mastermind, guy out of Wichita. He was like, how are you not exhausted? And when you love something so much, it gives you energy. And I'm in my zone. I am where I belong. And so it gives me energy. It doesn't drain me. I enjoy the chaos. I enjoy the appointment to appointment. A lot of people, they do not want my schedule. And I've had people tell me that I would never want to work like you. And that's fine.
Sorry about that. Bringing the microphone over. So my question to you, Carrie, was obviously with you being a top producer, it takes up a lot of time. How do you balance your personal life with business? Because naturally, I would assume you've ran into situations where they've overlapped.
Well, and I pulled my husband into real estate. So I will tell you that 2 buyer's agents living in the same house is next to impossible. So I've moved him more over into a listing side on my team within a team. Just because on the weekends we were literally just like passing the girls back and forth. And then he would go show houses and I would go show houses and he would go show houses. And then I would have to write, 3 offers and then I would be negotiating all night. And it's just like, then the day is over. So that's kind of helped. And I think COVID's kind of made things a little bit tougher too, just because, we used to vacation all the time. And And we just really haven't since all of that. But I am a workaholic. So it's hard for me to shut off. My husband balances me really well and tells me to shut it off. So, and I've given him permission to do that. Like, he's just like, seriously, I do not want to talk about work anymore. Like, it is 9 o'clock. Stop talking. So, you know, I think that's okay. You guys got anything else?
I have a question. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you are intentional with your buyer showings? Like, for example, how much time do you devote to each showing of a home? You know, if you have a buyer that is coming in from out of town or out of state, you know, how do you balance, you know, showing them houses? Obviously, some people want to see more houses than others, but just, you know, how many houses in a row are you willing to show someone? Just a little bit more details there.
I mean, honestly, I think once you get past 4 or 5 houses in one day, they can't remember anything, right? And I try to set that expectation. Like, we're not going to go look at 15 houses in one day. Like, I don't have the capacity, and you'll find out very quickly that you don't either. I have had one situation, doctor moved in town and they demanded to see this laundry list of houses. And we knew all of their pain points. I actually went with them and met them at the hotel, and I said, we're not going to show you these houses. Like, we're not doing it. And they demanded. And so what we ended up doing was I met with that buyer's agent and I explained every single one of them why it's not going to be a fit for them. And she literally would open the door and she was like, you're not going to like this, this, and this. Go. Right? She literally, Vanna White, opened the door, didn't even go in. And it took a couple houses for them to realize, and they were like, well, that we don't like this one. We don't like this one. And then the perfect house came on the market and I said, this is the house. Go show this house. And that's the house that they ended up buying. So I think that through that strategy session, making sure that you understand what it is that they are wanting so that you can be the professional. And once you're able to be the professional and they value that quicker, then they trust you. And then you don't have to show them as many houses. But I'm also a very visual person. So you've got to make sure that they understand which houses are which and what the triggers are, right? So say these are a bunch of MLS data sheets. I used to do this. All right, so we just went through house 1 and now we're in house 2, okay? So we're getting done with house 2. Okay, so this is the first house at 123 Main Street and this is this house. Which one do you like? Well, I'm gonna go with this house. Okay, perfect. So this one is a no. Yes, perfect. Throw it out.
Right in front of their face?
Right in front of their face. Because they have to have a way of releasing that house, right? Now, you may end up with like, oh gosh, these are really, really close. And then you just set up the second showing. Let's go back to the other house, right? But I used to do those cues. I used to do it in my car and throw it, put it in my backseat. My car used to be filled with ripped up paper like that because it would trigger them. And the other thing that to do is whenever you're on here, your MLS and you're in there, this is your agent data sheet. You need to be writing down things that you hear them trigger. So there's sunflower wallpaper. There's a super fluffy cat. This one has the pink room, right? So at the end of the day, we're done seeing all 4 houses. And what do you hear? You hear them say, I can't remember which one's which. They're all running together. Well, if you remember, this one is the one that had the red truck, right? Whenever we pulled up, and then this one had the sunflower. Oh yeah, that sunflower wallpaper one, throw it out. Crunch it up, throw it out. So now we're down to 3, right? It's a process of elimination for them, but you've got to come up with those triggers. I'm really, really, really good at this. Like, I have a very weird way of, if you said a name to me, I could tell you their address that they purchased and probably something about the house. You know, it had that sunflower wallpaper. It had that purple truck. It, you know, you just have to come up with a way to compartmentalize which house is which, because you have to be able to differentiate those. So if it's taking notes, on those things, their child runs over and gives, the dog a kiss and you're like, oh, French bulldog, right? So you've got to be able to help them process of elimination. Does that help you, Nathan?
Yes, it does very much. What is your average amount of time though you spend in each house when you're showing someone a home? Is there any thought on that?
I usually ask that question up front whenever, especially if I've got people coming in from out of town, because I've had a couple people be like, hey, I'm not a normal person. I'm going to go in, I'm going to measure every single room, so then I'll ask the question, so what are we measuring for? Can I get those dimensions before we go in? Because if we can eliminate some of those houses, well, I've got this giant bookshelf that I have to have 12 feet on. Okay, is that in the living room? So before we show any houses, I'm going to call and just see if there's 12 feet. And if there's not, then you don't want to look at it. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Yes, right? Process of elimination. But I think that what I do is I empower them to say, if you walk in the house and it smells, or if you walk in the house and it's a no, we're leaving, so that they don't feel like they have to go through the house, right? Because I've been in that situation where it's like the person thinks they're on HGTV and they walk in, they hate the house, but yet they want to spend 45 minutes in there. I don't have time for that. But also I think right now it's really important to set the expectation of what that looks like, because we are seeing that houses are being set up. You've got 30 minutes. So you tell them like, hey, we have an appointment scheduled at 12 o'clock and there's someone that's coming after us. So we only have about 20 minutes in the house, right? So you're telling them what their expectation is to help them move quicker, right? So that kind of helps a little bit.
That would seem to probably help them not be 5 or 10 minutes late for that appointment also.
I mean, right? You better be on time, otherwise you're not going to get to see it at all. Great question. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you guys, go ahead.
I have another question, Carrie. Dig into a little bit of details on how you win when you're competing against other offers. One of the tips that I got recently that has been life-changing for me, being so new, is to just call the listing agent and talk to them about what they want, what their buyers want, what are their hot points. But I would love to hear your perspective. Obviously, I've done it only a couple times now, and you've done it a lot. So thank you.
Absolutely. I make contact to every single agent. And I call them and I text them and then we send the email. Like I'm relentless on that. Buyer goes into a house. I call them, hey, this is Carrie Wersch, Keller Williams. We just looked at 123 Main Street and the buyer is really excited about the property. What can you tell me about the sellers? Well, they're moving out of state and a quick close is really, really important to them. Okay, so what is a quick close for them? Because I'm seeing that all of their stuff is still in the house. So is that like 4 weeks or is that 6 weeks? I asked that question up front. What is important to the seller? Are there any items that are important to the seller? Are they open to conventional loans? What title company do you want to close at? I ask them all those questions. Do you have any offers in hand? If they say yes, I say, are they cash? I ask every single agent a list of questions, and I sent this out to my team to make my team ask, and let me see if I can show it really quick. But I ask all kinds of questions. Sometimes you will have people that won't tell you anything, and other times you'll have agents that'll sing like a bird. And so I go for the sing like a bird. So whenever I call, I say, do you have any offers? When are you planning on presenting offers? How many offers do you have? Are any of them cash? Are they over asking? Is there appraisal contingency? Is there an acceleration clause? Are they doing inspections? Is there a closing date that is appealing to your seller? What closing company do you or your seller prefer? Is earnest money important? You can tell a lot by the age of the home or the seller's signature, if earnest money is important, because once upon a time, earnest money was a really big deal. So sometimes if you can just sweeten the deal for earnest money. Are you accepting love letters? Is there anything else that's important to your seller that I need to know about before writing this offer? And perfect example, I wrote one this morning and they told me everything. Yep, I've got a cash, no inspections, acceleration clause. They just told me everything. And then we called another one and she's like, oh, I just can't tell you any of that. I'm like, oh, really? That's so interesting. Why can't you tell me? Because in the listing document, it says that you have the right to disclose everything about the offer, right? And why not? Just tell me what you got, right? So the listing document does say that you have the right of giving that information away. And when I am representing a buyer, I'm going to ask you every single question. Because when you keep asking questions, they eventually tell you the answers. So.
How does Adam, or what is considered what you like from the selling side?
Adam's pretty open because he doesn't understand why somebody wouldn't tell what the offer is, and we usually get that sign that we're allowed to tell people. It's not fun, right? Like, we had a property go on the market. There were 21 offers, you guys. It is not fun. It's not fun. These agents that put stuff on the market and then they're like, well, we're looking at offers in 5 days. Well, why would you do that to yourself and your seller? So we'd rather just be honest. Like, hey, I've got an offer, $50,000 over asking price. They've got an appraisal gap of $50,000 and they've limited inspections to the roof and the crawl space. If you can beat it, write it. If you can't, I'm sorry. Send me a backup offer. So, I mean, I'd rather just be straight.
Straightforward, and it's like transparent. Everybody get the deal done, move on.
Yep. He
Why
said
are we
it's
holding up?
transparent and get the deal done and move forward. So we want to get the most amount of money for our sellers, right? So a lot of times Adam will disclose a lot of information.
Can you send that list? Or is that confidential information?
It's just a list that I made. Yeah. We can get it out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything else? Great question.
Can we have your contact information?
Of course. Yeah. You can get my information pretty much anywhere. My cell phone is 417-496-6073. My email address is kariw@kw.com. I will tell you that my email gets bogged down. So, but we're upstairs in this back corner and on the second floor. I'm here all the time. Alex Moore actually asked me to do a coaching session with him a couple weeks ago, and he basically was like, "You're the first car here and the last car to always leave." I just have a cot upstairs. I just sleep here most of the time. Just kidding, but no, I'm here all the time just because I don't show houses anymore, I pretty much do buyer consultations and negotiate contracts and do whatever I can to move the business forward. With coaching our team and everything else. So I'm actually one of those people that's here all the time. So yeah. If you guys need anything, let me know.
496-6073.
496-6073.
Can I put something in here? When I sold real estate back in 2008, 2009, I was the poster child for what not to do. I didn't have balance. I didn't ask for help. And I was the one-man show. And those are the 3 mistakes that I felt that I made back then. You have to turn your phone off at night to spend time with your family. Turn it on, do not disturb. I was going out the door at 11:30 at night to deliver contracts. So I was getting texts at 3 o'clock in the morning while I'm trying to sleep. You have to maintain that balance there or you'll burn yourself out and you'll go crazy. Now, I've come back into it. I've seen what Keller Williams has to offer. You have the support team there to help you. Take it, use it. It's there. And that's probably about one of the best advice that I can give to somebody. I sold real estate for 6 years and I spun my wheels And I wasted a lot of time being unproductive by being busy.
I love that. That's very, very true. You can have a lot of movement and no achievement. And so that's what I think is really, really important about these classes, is just learning how to do things foundational so that you can be able to build a business and be able to work in the business and not on the business constantly, and then learning how to leverage. It's awesome. All right, guys. Well, if you guys need anything, let me know. I want to respect your time. We went through everything, I feel like pretty quickly. So hopefully it was good information. I didn't bore the heck out of you. So yeah, it was nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Carrie.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
a lot.